Hi, everybody.
Are we beginning? Do we start? We can go? Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Hi. We're live to somewhere, Alabama, is that what you said? National. Okay, we are, and you are too. I'm Risa Brayman Garcia, and I would like to introduce these people you recognize from the film, I think. So first, our filmmaker, James Morrison. And where's Rhea? Where's Rhea? Riyadh Galili is, yes, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead here, and Kristin Cloke, and Currie Graham. So that's pretty intense, huh? Great, funny. You were late? Oh yeah, yeah. All right, so we'll just chat a little bit. We'll just talk amongst ourselves, and at the end, you can write some questions and send them on up, and we can address them. So first to you, James. So what was the inspiration for you to make this film? How did it start? What was, and same for you, Red, how did that come to be?
When I was working at the Old Globe, where I met Jack O'Brien, actually, in 1985, I was in the green room, ready to go on, sitting there in my tights and my codpiece, and I hadn't dressed for the play yet. And
it's his process.
I was sitting with Tom Lacy, who appeared in the film briefly, and he told me the most horrifying audition story I'd ever heard. And I said, you know, the actors are such great storytellers. We have to talk about this sometime. And eventually it became this. But when we talked about what we wanted to do, we decided that we wanted to write a love poem to the actor, and this is what came of it. But at the same time, we wanted to talk about what it means for someone, no matter what they do for a living, to put it all on the line to get it. And so I think it's using the audition as an allegory for going after what you want. And we always would turn to each other in the process of cutting it, and in the interview process too, and we'd say, now who are we talking to here? Are we talking to the neophyte actor just out of school? Are we talking to the journeyman actor who's been doing it forever? And are we talking to someone who has never auditioned and doesn't know? So we had to keep juggling that, and we also had to keep juggling who are we, what perspective are we speaking from? You know, am I talking about an actor who's been beat into the, you know, no. But you know, we all have in our own way. Or am I talking as an actor who, you know, that when I first started out and wanted to change the world and change your hat size as you leave, and it'll break your heart, and you know, make you laugh and scare you, you know. So that's how it happened.
And how long did it take to? What was the process? New York, L.A. How long did it take to put this together, to interview people, and then to cut it?
We talked to about 60 actors, so we had about 120 hours of interviews to cut down to 82 minutes. Except for Currie, we had about 15 minutes of Currie. It took 5 years from the time I interviewed Pat Hingle first, because I wanted him to bless the thing with his experience, and he was a dear friend of mine. And so I went to North Carolina, sat with him at his house, and I'd never interviewed anyone before him. So he would hold court, any of you who knew Pat. And so for 2 hours, he just did this monologue, and I sat there nodded off camera, in his eye line, you know, what? Yeah, you know. And he would occasionally look at his thing, and then as we developed, you know, it became more of a dialogue. But yeah, about 5 years.
And you did New York and L.A.?
Yep. We started with our friends, and then we went to Currie.
Currie was his own. Currie was his own destination. Where did you do it? Where was your? How did you
I was
get
in
involved?
LA, and it was about 5 years ago, I
Really?
think. And when I look at that,
So
I'm
when you were
oh
like
my
12?
God, I look like
Yeah.
I'm 12.
Yeah.
It's so weird, and so much has happened for me as well that I have a totally different perspective on.
Okay, so what from then to now? How has that
It's
changed
changed
for you?
so much. I mean, I was much closer to 20, and now I'm closer to 30, so I was kind of more on that range. And
You still look 12.
thank you. But I was, I think, still, I was more in the stage of, I think one of the other actresses talked about how when she was younger, she wanted to go in there and just be the best, be perfect. And yeah, I think I approached it that way, like it's going to be perfect. I'm going to get every note right. I'm going to not be fallible in any way. And now I'm very much the opposite. Now I'm really had to kind of start going much more on instinct, because I just started feeling like that was really not the type of actor I wanted to be, and not as exciting. And now it's much more nerve-wracking to go into auditions, because I don't know exactly what's going to happen anymore, where I used to know this is going to be.
So now you're on the
you know,
tightrope.
So it's exciting, but it's
Currie's
also
nodding. Okay.
it's totally so much more frightening. So I'm actually way more nervous for auditions now than I used to be. I'm just like shaking, like, oh God, I'm prepared. I'm prepared, but I completely forget everything, and I try to just go with the moment of whatever's happening and let that be. And that's.
Do you think that works though in the end, ultimately?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's much more exciting for the other people in the room.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's serving me well so far, but it's like, and the other thing that Kristen said that I related to so much was you go back to go every single time. So
What does that mean to you, going back to go? What does that mean?
I think that as an actor, unlike other professions where, you study and you work so hard, and, for me, I left college when I was 21, and I had an agent, and that's why I left college, and I started working right away, and, I really felt like, I had built all these relationships, and I had worked so hard, and I was always surprised that no matter what I did, and no matter what audition I gave, and how many people said they love my work, or whatever, or how many, I always, I always went back to stage one, where after I was done with the job, I was back fighting with all the chicks that I beat out for the last job, for this job, and it was all the same, and it didn't, because the truth is, the reality is, and the thing that I really understand about it, is that it is always different every time. Not every person is right for every single thing. And as much as we all believe that we are these incredible chameleons, as a person who's writing this thing or producing this thing, you want to cast somebody who is that thing. And I can't be everything. I can play everything. In here I play everything. Yeah. But the reality is I'm born to this vessel, and I am who I am. And so I have to prove that every single time.
And what does that feel like? There's the ego, which is probably the greatest enemy of all of us. But how does that feel, having to go back in after you've had success and you've worked for it in a period of time, and then you got to go back to zero and go into that room?
I think it's changed for me so much as I think I started off as a young person, and as I've grown into a bigger person with a bigger life that is not, my happiness is not contingent upon that part anymore. So, and my sense of who I am is not contingent upon that part anymore. So it's really changed for me. So Go looks different than the Go that I had originally. Yeah. Go for me is a much more beautiful place. So, Go for me as a young girl was scratch. I need this for something deep inside of me. And now I just enjoy the ride. It's something different. It's something on top of my life. It's not my life anymore. So Go is different. But it's still scary. I still shake the same way. And I still feel that thing, like if I'm really having a great time, there's that weird vibration between reality and some other thing. And the other thing about it is it doesn't matter if I get it. It only matters that I feel that thing that Mary talked about. Yeah. The rest of it acting parts are acting parts, and you're like, I hope I play the mom on, some show on the CW. It's like, well, the most important thing is I had that connection in the room with that person for those 3 minutes, and as an artist, I think that's fulfillment, because, the residuals are great, but outside that,
When I was in New York in 1975, 21 years old, and I wouldn't get a job, and I would be devastated for sometimes weeks, and I would just go, my God, I've got to get this job. I'm going to die soon, and I've got to get this job. And now it's like when I get an audition, I get a call for something or an opportunity comes, and I go, oh my God, you guys are killing me. Really? I have to go for this? That's the perspective,
Yeah, it changes.
with 35 years of doing it.
Yeah, well, one would hope the perspective would change. But the truth is, 99% of the time, you're not going to get the job. Right?
Yeah.
Right, and if you go in to get the job,
It's over.
it's over, yeah. Now, so you go in to get the job many times. What's the best?
Do I go in to get the job?
Do you still do that?
I
mean, how has
guess-
that
I
changed
guess
for you over
In some
time?
part of my being, I have to believe that I'm going into the room to get the job.
Right.
I don't think that my preparation or reading the script or any part of the work before that is about the result. And I'm kind of like you. Like I still get very nervous about auditions, but I realize that when I'm really nervous, I'm really not in my work.
Yeah.
And when I get in the room and all the other shit's over with, and I'm just going to do the work, then I'm not nervous anymore. I just focus on my work, and I'm fine. Do I want to get the job? Yeah, I want to get the job. Do I not get the job most of the time? Yeah, I don't get the job most of the time. And it's a weird thing too, because you sort of go and you go through this stage where you audition for everything, and then you start to get some offers, so you get offered things, and you get really good at auditioning because you audition all the time. And then you start to get some offers, and then you don't audition as much, and then you realize like a year goes by, and you go, I don't know, how many, I think I did like 3 auditions this year. And then all of a sudden, they're like, well, now you need to audition, and you don't have that. It's almost like a muscle, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like a muscle, so you don't use it all year, and then it comes around time to get back in the room and go audition. You're like, what, I'm going to do what? And it's terrifying, because you're not ready to do that. And I don't think that, for me, auditioning and acting are 2 different things.
So how are they different? Because really, at the end of the day, it's the same thing, but it's such an artificial process. So what is
That's
different?
a great question.
I think I can answer that.
Oh, good.
Of course you can.
Tell us, James.
Tell me, James.
I think it's a difference between what you feel your responsibility is in the moment that you're called upon to deliver. If you've already got the job, if you've already been assigned the task that you've worked for, the responsibility is different. In our minds, this is how but the responsibility to get the job is weighted with a whole other sense of stuff that has nothing to do with the work itself. It has nothing to do with the story. It has nothing to do with the being of service to the moment, as was discussed. We discussed this with everybody. I love to tell this story because I love to hear myself talk. But it's the best example I can think of this. Riyadh and I were called because we have a friend who's a casting director to help them with an audition, a big audition for a big, huge movie. It was one of those old-time screen tests, costumes, it was huge, and it was great. And so we worked with this A-list director for 2 days with these actors that he was reading. We put the chain mail on. I mean, it was the full deal. And then we helped this guy get this lead role in this huge movie. And what we realized during this process was that we were there to be of service to this guy, to this director and to this actor, to help this guy get the job. And we went, wow, and this is after doing it for years and years and years. We went, if we can take that feeling, because all the responsibility had changed. It had shifted to being of service to the greater good, if you will. And the next time I had an audition, I went, how can I help you? Like Walter Bobbie said, how can I be of service to you? With, not literally those words, but with my actions and with my commitment to the situation.
Does that make sense for you guys? Does that ever come into play, and does that help?
Well, I think that I understand what you're saying, because you go to work and you just are, and you don't have to win anything. You're not trying to audition. You're not trying to be anything. But I walk into a room and I know that with these pages they've given me, I've been doing it long enough to know there's certain things they want to see based on these pages they pulled from the script. And then, like you said, it's completely out of context. It has nothing to do with telling the story. It has nothing to do with moving the plot or moving the character or any of that stuff. They want to see very specific things, and it's just hard for me to try to be organic in that work. I find it difficult, and sometimes I wonder if I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if it matters. I wonder sometimes how much, like you were saying, you can't play everything. You're born to this vessel. You are who you are, and I wonder sometimes how much the work matters based on who you are. And I'll tell you a short story, brief, about something that happened to me. Brief. Relax. Sit back. So I was doing this. I was doing sort of a work session test thing between myself and another actor, and they want me to go in first. And I go into the room, and there's 16 people in there, and they all have ideas about what they want, and I do it. And the director said it was fantastic. It was great. We really love it. And they all laughed. And we did the second scene. So great. We loved it so much. And then they sent me out, and they sent the other guy in, and he went in, and he did it. And he came out, and his face was scarlet. He was just scarlet. And I said, what's wrong? He said, I just bombed. I just can't do this. But he's a very handsome dude. So anyway, they call me back in, and they want me to do it again. So he goes back in, I go back in, do it again. He goes back in, does it again. I get a phone call later saying, you're not getting it. They're going to work with the other guy. And I found out later what they meant with work with the other guy is the director told me that the executive showed him my tape of my audition and asked him to sort of imitate what I was doing for the job, and then he got the job. So I thought, and here's a guy who said to me, because I know him, and he's a sweet guy, and he said, I'm just not this character, I'm not this guy. And so I guess since then I've sort of been a little bit jaded about the whole, and I have to get over the idea that the best actor's going to get the part. You have to get over the idea that, it's not show acting, it's show business, and there's a lot of variables that add up to whether we get a role or don't get a role. And how we feel about that, and how that baggage is carried with us, and how we're able to release that and start fresh, and to go back to go clean, to go back to go clean, not to go back to go all dirty and bitter and jaded and scared and weird, and like you did a show for a while, and I get off the show, 2 years ends, and I go back out to audition. People are like, where you been? I'm like, well, I was doing a show. Yeah, never heard of it. Anyway. So like you said, you really do go back to go. Anyway, I don't know. I don't even know what the question was anymore. I just want to go to bed now.
But it's frustrating. It is. It's frustrating, and it's something that you can't make sense of, or you can't wrangle. So how do you make sense of it? How do you make it work for you?
I think you stop trying to make sense of it, and you take your 3 minutes and you make them your own. And I started to think, now, this is the only opportunity that I may get. I find something that I love, and I go, yes, I'm definitely going in for that. I can't wait to go in. And I take those 3 minutes, and I'm like, if this is the only opportunity that I'm going to get to play this role, I'm going to play the shit out of it right here and right now.
And that's great, though. That's great.
And I'm going to walk out the room, and I'm not going to ask you. They always say, do you have any questions? No, I don't have any questions. I don't have anything I want to say. I'm going to do my thing, and if you like it, hip, hip, hooray, and if you don't, good luck.
Can you do that? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I think most of us kind of reach the point where you sort of have to do that. I've been going through it recently, a thing where I went on over and over and over and over again, and it's still an ongoing process. And I've never had so many people call me. It's like, well, the producers want to tell you that he likes this, and my agents are calling me. Well, sometimes he likes it when people do this, and he likes this type of person, and he likes this, because he just couldn't. Every time I went in, they're like, you're perfect. The audition's great. Director, there's some quality in you. He just doesn't see the quality. And I finally was just telling my agents, I was like, I'll go in as many times as you want me to go in. I will work as hard as I need to work. But I am who I am, and if he doesn't see me in this part, that doesn't mean that I failed, and you guys have to get that. There's, I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to do whatever it takes, but if I don't get it, I'm still going to feel great about what I did, because I put in the work. And at the end of the day, somebody else is going to like my quality. If he doesn't get my quality, it doesn't make me less of an actor. Every director, every writer, everybody responds to something differently, and you can't control that.
I'll just say one thing, and it just struck me.
Just one thing.
Just one thing, and
Yeah.
then I'm go back to sleep. You know, I'm a very sensitive person, and we're sensitive people, and we drudge up these feelings, and we pull up these emotions, and we try to live in these other shoes for those 3 minutes, and we walk in the room very vulnerable. And when you sit across from some of these people, and they don't react how we dream they will react, or we don't get the job, and we've sort of shown a very vulnerable part of ourselves, it's very hard to not take it personally. But in the end, I sort of realized that my ability to do that being courageous with my emotional life and being courageous and generous with my feelings is why I got into this business. It's the excitement that I look for, and I never thought I was going to get any job. So to have the opportunity to go do that is sort of my gift, I guess.
I mean, truthfully, you can change a room if you can leave the ego there and make it about the work and leave a piece of your soul in there. You can change the room. Sometimes it's harder than other times.
Well, see, we're getting this now from your perspective.
Don't get me started.
Okay.
Not today.
But no, it's true. I mean, you know, all of us at one time or another will be, have been, whether it's as an actor or in show business, we've all been on the other side of the table, right, so to speak, and we've all seen, well, you know, what am I looking for? Like Jack O'Brien said, you know, do I want to have dinner with this person? Do I want to spend more than 5 minutes with this person? Because, you know, I might be spending 6 months with this person. So a lot of that has to do with, are they insane? Are they going to be supportive? Are they going to be manipulative? Or, you know?
It's getting to know you. It's getting to see you, to getting a piece of you. And when you can do that.
And
It's
what you have
everything.
to do that is let go of all that other stuff that you walk in there with,
Yeah.
which is, you know.
Which is hard,
Yeah.
What were you were going to say something before?
I think it was like 3 comments ago, but I do want to say that I think that that's such a great point. What you said was, I'm sorry, that you know, the idea that you can change a room, you know, and I just think that that is, you know, such a great thing to take with you. I think that what I was going to say before that, I mean, for me, when Currie was talking, I really like the idea of.
Okay.
I'm only going to take 4 of those 10. No, I really like the idea, for me personally, serving a purpose, a bigger
Right.
purpose, to know that I go in there and I have a specific thing that I do in that bigger thing. You know, I've worked with my husband a lot, who's a writer, and when we work together, I am there to specifically do a thing that he needs set up. Like, you can audition all kinds of things, but sometimes the person who just says the words or tells a piece of the story is a really important piece, and it changes everything. And for me, I am like I feel for me as a human being, like I'm a hole filler, or I like to have a purpose, a bigger purpose, and to just go there and, like, you know, when I first started, I just like wanted to unzip it and show it, you know, and I thought that was my job. And, you know, as I got older and it becomes more intellectual for me, and just unzipping it and showing it, it's like, you know, I feel like I need more, and I like the idea of just having a single purpose, a job to do, a story to tell, a piece, a hole that I fill.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it makes sense, and it's very hard as actors to believe that you are serving a greater good in the room. I mean, the truth is, directors, writers, producers, they haven't a clue. They haven't a clue. They don't know what they want. They don't know what they've created. And if you can come in and say, I'm doing my job, together to collaborate to
Right.
serve this work, this is my version of it. Like, you know, I think Nathan Lane said, this is what I do. This is my work. I'm going to come in and do that thing. And does that work for you? How do we do this together to not to take the table out of the way and to say,
Like, I want to just scratch the itch. Like, whatever your itch is, you
Yeah.
know, like, my job is to come in the room and scratch it for you. So you go, oh, she scratched the itch. All right, we'll
Yeah,
take her, you know.
And they may want you to scratch the knee, but you're scratching the shoulder, and they go, yeah, that's itchy too. I mean, but to know that's not to serve their vision, exclusively, because they don't really know what that is. They really don't know what that is, and it changes, and that's what's so great about it. And you come in, and it's a lot of moving parts. Yeah, here's a couple questions here. An actor who has turned pro, what would that look like to you? The actor was turned pro, what would that look like to you? I'm not sure what this means. So doing it for a long time, over and over and over again, over time, you've talked a little bit about what that's like. But
The auditions?
yeah. How does it change? How does it change your sense of the work? Has auditioning changed for you?
You-
Go ahead, Currie.
What?
Take it away.
I find I have a love-hate relationship with it. I have there's parts of it that I can seek the joy of my own experience, and there's other parts I find very frustrating. And I think getting caught in the seeking the joy of my own experiences when I'm able to leave everything behind and I'm able to forget about what they want and forget about what itch they want scratched and forget about all that stuff and just go in and do my thing. My take, this is my thing, I'm going to go do it. And when I start to get heady about it and when I start to think, well, I think they might want this and I read the script and this is probably what this should be like, then it's just, then I'm not serving myself and I'm not serving them and I'm miserable. And I also, there's that look you get from them when you walk in the room and you're not quite as famous as they'd hoped you'd be. Oh, hi. Oh, shit. All right, we'll wait for him to get done and then we'll, I think there is that too. And like you were saying, whatever that itch is, but it's also, who's on, the tricky part is who's on what list and who's on the lists. And do we have a list? Is he on the list? Does he have a deal? Oh, I love him. He has an audition. I know, but he's great. You know what I mean? It's that idea that, yes, you can go in and you can change a room when they've decided that they're willing to actually watch what you're doing.
Well, speaking of that, things have changed dramatically in terms of going on tape now, and everybody watching you on this, on their iPhone on the 405 and this little screen, rather than having the experience of being in the room. And I struggle with that all the time. So have you experienced that? And how is that different than it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago?
Really different.
How so?
I mean, there's part of me that really likes it because I'm sorry, Jane. I there's part of me that really likes it only because you have that thing where sometimes you walk into a group of people and they don't know what they want. So it's just sort of like, where sometimes I think you walk into, I mean, I like a casting director in the sense that I kind of what the thing is, and you and I can have an intimate experience, and if it doesn't work and you think that I can kind of get it, we could do it again. And till the point where I feel good and you feel good, and we don't know how they're going to feel, and it's not really in our control, but we had an experience, and that can be okay for me. And that really has to be okay. I mean, I really feel strongly about that experience. The job for me almost anymore is like very rare. It's the experience. And so in that, I like that intimacy. A little bit, unless you have a director who's like an auteur who really knows what they want and they want to be in that room, and that can be really exciting. But
a lot of the time you don't get a note, right?
Right.
I think I have an answer for this question.
Oh,
Did
okay.
we answer this?
I don't know. An actor who has turned pro, what would that look like to you?
I think I have an answer.
Okay.
Because I'm not one of the people who thinks that professional means you get paid for it and you make a living. I think it's more of an attitude. I think if you part-time application yields part-time results. So I remember Dustin Hoffman talking about if he'd never made it big or never become a successful actor, he would have to be doing this somewhere in Nebraska. He would be doing full-time community theater. He would have to be doing this.
That's it, Currie. That's for you.
And yeah.
Think so?
Is that did you? No. Okay. Anyway, that's what I think.
But what does that mean? That means that you have to be doing it. You're compelled to do it no matter what.
No. Well, I think you apply yourself completely, heart, mind, and soul, to what you're doing, no matter what it is you're doing. If you want to be a grip, if you want to be a lighting designer, a DP, an actor, a director.
I love the simplicity of that, because that's a great statement to say that we do it because we love it, and we want to do it for the rest of our lives. We'd be happy to do it in Nebraska.
And we'll find a way to do it.
And we find a way to do it. And whether that's your 3 minutes in the room, or that's your 30 seconds at a commercial audition, or that's doing free theater in a 25-seat play, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, I think that that's it. But when you get into the merger of creativity and finance, it becomes a different thing, and it becomes for me.
Well, no, you start relying on other people to validate you. You walk into the room and going, please like me and hire me, and that way I'll know that I'm on the right track. You have to know you're on the right track.
Or if you like me, then I can pay my rent.
Yeah.
So, right.
Thank God, there's another question.
James, what is your ultimate goal with this film? Do you plan to educate the powers that be?
No, I have no, that would have been a different movie. Well, because we had some great stories. People named names. They, told some stories about, the most terrible people that they could have ever auditioned for, and that would have been I would never, ever in a million years tell Risa how to do her job. However, actors love to sort of commiserate about, it was a miserable thing, and that's how this started, as I said. So, no, I wanted to create a feeling of belongingness among actors. I wanted, you to be able to watch this, other actors to be able to watch this and go, wow, Sam, what's his name? Sam Rockwell feels the same way I do. Oh my God, that's amazing.
When you guys watch this, even though you were a part of it, how does it resonate for you when you see all this, the consistency, the constant of that? What does that do to you? What is that?
It's an amazing feeling, because I think you just feel very isolated in all those feelings as an actor. You're just like, God, why does this happen to me? Everything's just always like, every time it happens to me, I never get the part. And you just never think that everybody else is feeling the exact same way, and everybody on every level is feeling the exact same way, and not just where you are, but people who are way beyond you. So it's amazing to watch that and just to feel like, oh, everybody's been through it. It's a totally universal, not just in actors, but I think I think that actors go through a very specific and unique experience, but there's a lot of things in it that are totally universal as well, of just this need for the validation and to be liked and to be told that you mean something, and that your place means something, and that you bring something to the table.
I think that for me, I've seen this movie quite a bit, and I think the thing to me that I always fall in love with over and over is, and I think that Riyadh did such a fantastic job. She's a great filmmaker, and I'm so proud of her when I watch this movie, is that it's a metaphor, for really being alive. The idea of no matter what you do, show up, and it doesn't matter whether you're an actor or you bag groceries, or or you're helping somebody that day, or you're a mom or a friend, just show up. And I think that when I watch this movie, all the stories, if you fill in the blank and you take out acting and you put in whatever it is that you're doing that day, whether it's making a meal for someone you care about, or doing the job that you do instead of auditioning that day, if you show up, the same things can happen. And I think that that's the success of this movie, and that's why it's universal. It's not just about what we're doing here, in a room at SAG, but what we're doing here is a collective. And I think that Riyadh and James were really successful in that respect, and I could watch it over and over again because it's always a great reminder. Yeah.
Thank you, Kristen. Riyadh, would you want to say something? No, you good? I want to say thank you to Kristen. That was pretty nice.
Well, you guys have tapped into something, and I think the powers that be, whoever they are, should see this, because every time, I've seen it a few times, and when I see it, it resonates for me, and I go, oh yeah, this is why I love actors, because you're able, the fragility and the vulnerability and the sensitivity and the heart that you guys have to bring all the time to this, that you bring all of yourselves, that this is your instrument, is extraordinary. And it's forgotten sometimes because the people on the other side they're so spinning in their own panic and fear. Because if you're not great and they can't find you, their pilot won't get picked up, and they'll get fired, or their movie won't get distributed, and it's all about you validating them. And they're just sitting there worrying about their own jobs, their own selves. I remember I heard this story recently from Dick Wolf, who said that to this day, when he watches dailies and they don't work, his first thought is, I better fire the writer, right? Or when he watches auditions and the scene doesn't work, he goes, we got to rewrite the script. He rarely goes, oh, that actor sucked. So, as much as it feels like your responsibility, it's so much about everybody having that same collective need to make it better, to make it work, to be validated, right? You have so much power. You don't know that.
And that's what I love about this movie. For me, every time I've seen it, I always, and I'll make the short, be very short.
Yes, because I think we're getting the
For me,
hook.
this is all
We
about
are- yeah.
courage. And I
Okay.
watch this movie, and it just sort of
Courage.
reaffirms the fact that I need to be courageous in everything I do as an actor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Riyadh.
Thank you, Risa.